Hello and welcome to today's 13-week author strategy sessions. As you can see, I am in a very different location from the previous weeks if you've been joining every week or viewing these on YouTube. And today I'm going to be dealing with the issue of how do you know what kind of publisher you want, and the differences between a traditional publisher, a boutique publisher, and a publisher that is, bear with me one second. Sorry about that interruption, folks. So, as I was saying, see, we don't take ourselves too seriously here at DBI. Serious enough, but not too seriously. So today we're going to be looking at the different types of publishers. We are going to be looking at traditional publishing, hybrid publishing, and self-publishing, and understanding the differences between them. Now, this is, as I said, there are not, you're going to be finding in this seminar series answers you can't find on Google. So I'm about to share some slides with you, and I'm going to be asking you some questions. So bear with me to think about and to consider, so that you know what you're doing when it comes to, well, you know what kind of things to be looking for when you, I think I'm doing this right. You'd think after all these weeks I'd be figuring it out, wouldn't you? See, this is why we have a team around us. Okay, are we cooking on gas now? I think you can all see this. Now we're at step 7. We don't want to be there just yet, do we? We're not at step 1 just yet. So when you're choosing between a traditional publisher, a boutique publisher, a hybrid publisher, or self-publisher, and also a vanity publisher, yes, there are many of us. I'm not a vanity publisher, by the way. One of the things that I really want you to start thinking about is that a traditional publisher, these are the ones that you pitch your manuscript to. They're the ones that buy your manuscript and the rights to your manuscript, and then they take, you effectively become someone who works for them. A boutique publisher, someone like myself, is somebody who specializes in a specific genre, and we're the ones that we publish books within that genre. But what we'll also do is we'll help you. I think my internet just dropped. We'll also help you figure out whether you wish to publish under your own brand, or whether you wish to do a bit, you would hire us to do all of your publishing services for you, or whether you want to work with us. Then you've got the vanity publishers. These are people that just publish. They are not really interested in books. They're all about your ego, and every interaction that you have with them, you have to pay for. You probably never, ever get to speak to them in person. It'll all be done by email. And they really don't have a love of books. They're just in it for profit. Then you have hybrid publishing, which is a little bit like the boutique publishers like myself. So you'll use somebody who's a professional publisher like myself, my team, and you'll do bits of it yourself. So for example, if you have an existing team that are working for you and with you, you will then be using them and myself and my team to grow and publish your book. Self-publishing is you do it all by yourself, you figure it out all by yourself, and you get on with it by yourself. Now, when you're working with a traditional publisher, you basically just focus on the writing, and then you send it off, and then you, as long as you adhere to their deadlines and to their rules, whether that is having your voice watered down, or your message watered down, or amplified, or as long as you adhere to their terms of book launches and traveling and being in the right place at the right time and to their deadline, if that's what you want, then go for it. If you are somebody who likes to make all your own decisions, you like to be in control of your own creativity, and you want you don't want to sell your rights, you don't want to sell the rights to your book, then traditional publishing may not be for you if you are entrepreneurial and you like to, like I said, like to make all the results to your create all the results. I'm having a real challenge today. I overslept. And now I'm completely discombobulated. So anyway, if you're entrepreneurial, then you might want to consider self-publishing or working with a boutique publisher. And I would say that if you just want to send off your manuscript and be told what to do by a traditional company, traditional publisher, then that's probably the route that you need to go down. I wouldn't advise anybody to go down the vanity publishing route, but there you go. Number two, fabulous number two. Do you already have a large audience, and are they engaged? Because if you already have a large audience that's engaging with you, that's already buying from you, and the book that you've written is either a brand expansion piece or a service-led book, or it's about you as the founder of the organization or you as the brand, then that's great. Agents will be very eager to speak to you, and it also makes the traditional publishers' lives a lot easier if you've already got a large audience. Um, this also benefits you if you choose to go down the self-publishing route, because you can maximize that audience and you can help generate your own sales, and you can actually share the story of you writing your book as you go. If you're working with somebody like myself who is a boutique publisher, then we love working with people who have got large audiences. Of course we do. And we can help mix the marketing expertise that we have with your own, and we can actually just help you. But again, understanding how much involvement you have producing the book and marketing the book and selling the book and any other bits and pieces such as merchandise that you wish to have. These all come into the equation of whether you are going to self-publish to have a traditional publisher or whether you are going to go hybrid. Now, again, bringing it back, if you do go to a traditional publisher, they will want to use all their own teams. They will want to use their own avenues. They will also only be paying you around about 10% of the 10% of the profits made from the book. Whereas if you self-publish or you work with an organization like myself, who is a boutique publisher, you will receive all your royalties. We do not take any at DBI, we don't take any royalties from our clients at all. We publish the book, we make our money from you investing in yourself and in your vision, and all the royalties that you receive, you will be paid in full of those. 100% of your royalties will go to you. And then you can pay your team, and you can actually utilize that money to actually do your own book signings and like generate merchandise. And again, it's all comes back to how much are you willing to give away when it comes to your book. Are you willing to give away your profits? Are you willing to give away your control? Are you willing to give away your rights? Are you willing to give away your time freedom? Because when you're working with a traditional publisher, a lot of the control, and again, this depends on the contract that you have, but these are things you need to consider when signing with a traditional publisher. And remember, the royalties that you get as an advance when you publish with somebody who uses the traditional publishing method, your royalties that you receive afterwards, those royalties of what they expect your book might sell. I mean, so if the lower the payment, and roughly they're about 5 to 10,000. 10 is pushing it, 5 is the normal. And so if you get anything higher than 10,000, then you're doing well. They've got some hope in you, but you will only receive royalties once they have made that 10,000 back, whether that's £10,000 or $10,000, whichever currency. You will only receive royalties, and only 10% of those royalties once they have made their money back on the advances that they've given you. And a lot of people that I know that are entrepreneurial, that do have a team and that are used to building businesses and generating income for themselves, they tend to make a lot more money and a lot more impact when they self-publish or use a boutique publisher than if they go with a traditional publisher. And the reason I say that is because they get to drive their own their own uh, they get to forge their own path, to use a different phrase. That it's not saying that if you go traditional publishing that you will not be able to make as bigger impact, because if a traditional publisher gives you a large advance, that means that they really believe this book is going to fly and that you will be able to generate a lot of money. They're not going to give you a very big advance if they don't believe that you can actually have um, a lot of impact and readers. Now, I'm thinking in my head, as you can probably tell, because there are a number of people that I know who have gone down the route of traditional publishing, and then they've had to fight, myself included, to get their manuscript back. And then once they've got their manuscript back from a traditional publisher and they've gone on to self-publish or work with a boutique publisher like myself, they've made a lot more money. It's not to say that traditional publishers are all the same, but on the whole, they do like to control where you're going. Um, so you need to really consider that. Step three, and this was another reason why I was thinking, because I was like, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. What is the purpose of your book? Because if the purpose of your book is more of a money maker, or it's more to create impact, or a gift for your family for when you pass, you're going to want a different kind of publisher at every step, um, at every stage. Because if it is to make a lot of money and you're a seasoned business owner and you've got a large audience, you can make just as much money, if not a lot more, by working with a boutique publisher or self-publishing. If you want to make an impact, it might be that your book is not really for a mainstream traditional publisher. You might want to be going to certain sectors of the community or certain areas of business, and you might want to be talking about certain subjects that a traditional publisher will not accept. We have to remember that a traditional publisher tends to be driven by more mainstream issues. They tend to shy away from sensitive subjects or traumatic subjects, or things that are quite sensitive and traumatic. For example, if you are talking about harsh subjects such as traumatic events that involve rape and things like that, or civil war, or certain political views, mainstream publishers won't tend to go with you, or won't tend to accept your manuscript. So a boutique publisher or self-publishing is the best way to go. If you're wanting to create a gift for your family, my advice would be to pop down to your local printer, find out if they do books, and probably write your manuscript. Work with someone like myself who will do a typesetting of the manuscript and all the editing, but then go to a local publisher, sorry, a local printer, to see if they will print the book for you, because you'll be able to do a lot less copies. But if it's only a gift for your family, you don't really want it to be put out there on all of the huge platforms that a boutique publisher like myself, hybrid, or traditional publisher will do. So again, you've got to look at what your goals are, what the purpose of your book is. Like I say, if it is about making an impact or raising awareness about a certain subject, then depending on what that is, a lot of traditional publishers will shy away from it. If your book is about you taking your existing brand or your existing company mission and moving into a new sector, or actually saying, our company stands for this cause, or this is me as an individual and I want to talk about this. I want to raise awareness of this issue. And it's something completely unrelated to your business or your career. Because again, it's not about just business. I'm not somebody who just works with business people. I am someone who works with every individual, and that is willing to write a book of substance and write a high quality book. So you've got to also remember, which reminds me, that a lot of hybrid or vanity publishers, they're not really interested in the quality production of a book. Like I said, they just want to get paid. They're not interested in the I mean, I've read some and I'm just like, oh my God, what did I just read? I will never get that time back. Sorry, I've got the dog trying to sit on this chair behind me. And the thing is if you are looking at, completely lost my train of thought there, Bobo. What was I saying? Brand expansion. That's right. If you are somebody who you have a company and there's something that your industry is doing or that you have become aware of, but you want to align your company values or your career with this cause or your status within your industry, and you want to raise awareness of something, then again, you might want to go down the route of a boutique publisher, a hybrid publisher. Now, remember, as I said, a boutique publisher will do it all for you. They'll work with you a lot more closely. But a hybrid publisher, they tend to do parts of the process for you, whereas the boutique publisher like myself will take it all off your hands, will do it all for you, will put it in your brand, or if it's suitable for our brand, then we put it under ours. So again, it's about really truly understanding what your purpose is for writing this book. Are you elevating your business to the next level or your career to the next level? Are you even wanting to go to that? So for example, if you've been working, let's just say in marketing for example, and you decide that, you know what, you're absolutely done with the mental health issues that are being caused by irresponsible marketing. And what you want to do is you want to write this book, you want to establish yourself as an expert, and that will then help you get a job at a much higher level. Just think of it as an incredible covering letter. Instead of you sending out just a CV and a covering letter, you send them a book instead and say, I want to work for your company. This is why I love marketing. This is how I think we need to do better in marketing. Please let me know what you think. And so when you're doing that, you then tend to find that the purpose of your book and the type of publisher that you are choosing changes. Like I said, if you're going down the traditional route and you're tackling something that is a little bit controversial, traditional publishers tend to want you to water down your voice or your message. If you're not prepared to do that, myself as a case in point, my voice is my voice, and I think and I feel what I feel for a reason. If you're not prepared to water down your voice or your message, then a traditional publisher is probably not what you're looking for. So find out what is your true purpose for the book. If you're just looking for the title of author, vanity publishers are an option. And if you're willing to spend time reaching out to agents and to publishing companies all the time on the hope that they're going to give you that validation sticker or the permission to publish, if that's what the route that you want to go down, then a traditional publisher is for you. Just so as you know, back in 2019, 2018, I was interviewed for a book. This lady was so adamant she wanted a traditional publisher. It was a great book. I was honored to be part of it. But all these years later, in 2025, she is still waiting for a publisher to pick up her book. So there is a wait time. So I recommend you give yourself permission to publish your own book, and make more money in the process. Now, this is not something, like I said, this whole series is about giving you the answers to things that you're not going to find on Google, or not a lot of people talk about, because being an author coach, I don't just look at the quality of your writing and the quality of the production of the book. I look at your lifestyle. And these aspects of it in step 4 are really important, because you have to consider how private you want your life to be, and how quickly you want to be catapulted into the spotlight. How do you want to live your life? Do you want to just be an author who um, is just out there, being, for want of a better phrase, being pimped out by a publisher to everywhere and anywhere in the spotlight? Again, it comes back to your purpose and how much you're willing to invest, because it's not just about the money that you invest or don't invest. It's about the time. It's about the sacrifices. Because if you go with a publisher that, and this could be either a boutique publisher or a traditional publisher, if you want to be here, there, and everywhere, and go into the spotlight, there is something that goes with that. There is the online praise, as well as the online haters. And if you've written something that is controversial, or you've written about something that's really sensitive, I mean, Teresa, I know that you're on here today, and I know that your story is about your son, and grief. And are you prepared to have a traditional publisher um, put you out there into the limelight and go from 0 to everything, or 20% to 100%? How quickly do you want to be catapulted into the spotlight, or do you want a steady progression? Because sometimes, and I have a couple of clients, it gets to the near publication date and we've had to delay their publication because they're just not quite ready, because they get those pre-publication nerves. And they're so used to seeing in the mainstream people becoming an author and becoming J.K. Rowling overnight, or being in this news press or on the TV. That's great for sales and awareness, but you have to understand what that's going to do to your private life. It's not very nice receiving haters. After all these years, I've learned how to turn that around and actually use their hateful comments to great benefit. I now use it. I'm like, great, I didn't have to think of a post today. I can just take what they've written and address it publicly. So you've got to also understand how, when you receive that hate, or you receive all of that praise, what's that going to do to your mental health? What is that going to do to your family and your friends and your social network? Some of the sorts things that I've written about, and some of the things some of my clients have written about, it's really shifted their social circle. There are certain subjects that I've written about that said to my two sons, I'm going to be writing about this. How do you feel? This is where I want to go with it. What do you reckon? Um, and again, it's about getting their enrollment on the project as well, because it's not just me that this will affect. And it's not just you as the author that your book is going to impact. The other thing that I really suggest you look at is, and I've mentioned it previously at the top of this top of this session, what do you want? Do you want someone who's just going to take over and make all the decisions and just tell you where to show up, tell you when to deliver the manuscript or your next manuscript, and basically be your employer? Because when you go to a traditional publisher and you've sold your manuscript to them, because that's what effectively you're doing, you're selling your manuscript to them. They're not giving you an advance. They're buying your manuscript, and they're buying the rights to publish it. What do you want from them? Because remember, there are a lot of people that work within the publishing industry. They're not book geeks. They're not word nerds. They're not lovers of literature. They are people who are doing a job. And yes, they do like books to a certain degree, but it's understanding why they do. And when you understand what you want from a publisher, then you get to look at which publisher you want. Because if you are just looking for the advance to cover the time that you've written, now bearing in mind, remember, I did say that if you are going to go to a traditional publisher that's going to pay you for your book, the average payout is between 5 and 10,000. 10 being very high, and most books will only sell about 3,000 copies in its lifetime, i.e. your lifetime. And anything more than that is great. Hence why the advance in royalties is much lower. If you are wanting, like a lot of people do, they want to be published by Penguin, or they want to be published by Simon and Schuster, or if it's an academic one, they might want to be published by, like here in Britain, Oxford University Press. They might want to, if it's again your thesis, you might want your university publisher to publish for you. So again, it's understanding what it is that you want. If it is it the prestige of being published by a certain publisher, is it the money, or is it just to tell your story? I remember working with Carmel, incredible, incredible woman. I love her book, Unlocked. Her mission for publishing her book was she had never invested this certain amount of money in herself. She wanted to overcome imposter syndrome. She wanted to share her story so that her family could really, truly understand who she was. And so her book was never going to sell a lot of copies. Sold more than she thought it would, but that's what you get for working with me. So it was never going to be a really big seller in that, because her intention wasn't that. It was more about, I am worth this investment. I don't want to go to a publisher to pay me. I want to invest this money in myself because I know I'm worth it. And that's a very different reason to coming to publish a book than a lot of people. So it's about, what do you want? What is your book for? And what do you intend to achieve with it? Because those of you who are entrepreneurial and who are hungry for success, sometimes working with a traditional publisher is going to hold you back. So you're going to want to work with an entrepreneurial boutique publisher like myself, because it's like, okay, let's game on, let's go do this. Whereas we don't have a lot of red tape within a small boutique publishing company, whereas within a larger traditional publishers, you have a lot of red tape that you have to deal with. You have lots of departments. You've got to understand whether you want to be in an environment where you have an intimate team, whether you are going to be just a number on the profit margins, or whether you are going to have a huge team behind you that is going to drive it forward, but not really understand who you are or the challenges that you have. Now, I work with some people just as an author coach whilst they're being published by a different company, because their book is not on brand for me. And they don't want to self-publish, but they want someone to keep them accountable, to help them get through what it is that they're going through, to deal with their emotional and mental challenges, but also as a sounding board for what's actually happening. So again, it really does depend on what you want from your publisher. So there's a lot to think about. Also, as I was saying, do you want someone who loves books? Now, I'm a complete book geek. I just love books. I don't just read and write them for business. I finish reading manuscripts during the day or writing them, and then I start reading them in the evening. Reading books in the evening, and I'll read pretty much every genre. So there's quite a bit that I do that I'm yeah, books and more books. Why would you not? And this final part, because I know that we're getting to the Q&A session, is I want you to ask yourself, if you had no choice but to publish your book yourself, would you still publish it? Because if you say no, do you really want it? If you're not prepared to put your money where your mouth is and you're not prepared to do everything yourself, do you actually want it bad enough? Because when you're somebody who really has a powerful mission and you have a purpose, it's all well and good going to other people to invest in you. But if you're not willing to invest in yourself, why should anybody else? If you're not willing to buy copies of your book and distribute it, then why would anybody else want to buy copies of your book and distribute it? And this is something that a lot of authors do. They want the title of author, and then they go onto Canva. They create. I mean, I've seen some diabolical book covers, and I'm like, oh my god! Like even I could do better than that. And no one needs to see a book cover I've designed. Really, just don't do it to. I wouldn't do it to people. If you're not prepared to invest in a professionally designed cover, you're not prepared to invest in an editor, you're not prepared to invest in all the legal fees and the contracts and put research into disclaimers and trigger warnings and editing, typesetting, and all the other things that go into putting a book out there and doing the social media marketing and the email marketing, the news press releases and showing up at events and contacting conference organizers. If you're not willing to do all of that yourself, why would you want someone else to do it for you? Now, there are also a lot of people who will be promising, and this is something that, again, I really want you to be aware of when you're choosing a publisher. Are you falling for the narratives or the wild claims that they make, where they can get you six-figure launches within 6 months of launching, but you can write your book within an hour? I saw the other day. I was like, wow, I can't even read a book in an hour, and I'm a speed reader. And you're seeing these people that are promising such unrealistic claims, and it just sets you up to fail. If you have a lot of money to throw at publishing your book, yeah, you could make a six-figure launch. But what you need to be looking at is that there are consultancy fees that need to go into that, and there's a lot of work that needs to go into building a six-figure launch. There's a huge marketing strategy. You've got your audience to build. You have got, I mean, there's one guy who I know, he sold 1 million copies within a month of his book going live. What a lot of people didn't realize was he had the money to buy those 1 million copies himself. And he then distributed it to very key individuals within his network, and he was able to sell those books through those networks. That had taken him many years to build. I mean, his career spanned nearly 40 years, and getting to the level he got to be able to buy those 1 million copies and distribute it through those networks with a lot of name dropping took a lot of money. But that's something that people are not telling you. They're making all these wild claims, and you want to be with a publisher who is honest with you. They will have a look at your social media, they'll look at how you're showing up, they'll look at your skill set, they'll look at how much time you have. And they also look at how ready you are as an individual to publish, when, you know, because it's not just about the publishing, it's everything that comes after that. And it's about looking at how much you're willing to invest in your vision post publication. It is not an easy journey a lot of the time, because once you get there, you're like, okay, well, I've published now. It's a really great book. It looks fantastic. Um, but one, my family are not buying my books. My friends aren't buying my books. Your friends and family are not going to buy your books. If they do, you're very blessed, and you're in like a 0.01% of the people who publish a book whose family buy their books. And you cannot rely on your existing network. You have to rely on yourself. and you have to look at what strategy you have built thus far and that you're going to build after, because you've got to talk about this book for the rest of your life. Writing and publishing a book is like having a child. You cannot neglect the child once it's been born, and you cannot neglect your book once it's been published. So you've really got to look at what you're prepared to invest after the book has been published. And when you've chosen the right publisher for you, your goals and your aims and your desired lifestyle, then you're going to know that you're in safe hands. And it's all about you and your book being in safe hands. So that is the difference between which publishers, like I touched on it. I know that some of you joined late. So you missed the beginning of the recording when I was talking and describing the differences between a traditional self-publishing hybrid and boutique publisher and a vanity publisher. So if you've got any questions, I'm going to stop sharing now on this one. But if you've got any questions, do let me know in the chat. I can't see any questions that are there now. Okay, I've got one now. So when's the right time to thank you, Gary? Okay. What's the right time to launch a book? It depends on the nature and the content of your book. Because if you are, so for example, today, oh my goodness, I've got to promote a book. Today is the International Day Against Female Genital Mutilation. And one of my books was about female genital mutilation. And so you might want to align your book with an international day. You might want to align it with a personal victory. So for example, if it's a personal story, is there an anniversary that you're aiming to? So for example, with Wallahi, which was my second book, that was all about living in Egypt during the Egyptian uprising. So we launched it on the 25th of January on ebook, and then we did it on the in February for the Million Man March. So there were 2 dates there. So it depends on what your book is about as to what time it is, what time is the best to launch. And it would depend on if you're working, if you were to go by 3 to 4 weeks, you could do this, no problem. I've written several books in less than a week. But again, I'd already published a book, I'd already got a strategy in place. If you were going to go to the traditional route, you are looking at a much, much longer timeline. I'm very impatient. I like to get books written, done, published, and marketed, sold, money in the bank. Because there's a lot in this head and I just need to get it out. But if you are going to go down the traditional route, you are probably looking anywhere between a year, 18 months, sometimes 2 years, sometimes longer, because they've got a lot of books that they're dealing with, and they are looking at making sure that if they invest and give you an advance, that they're going to get their money back. So if you want to go down the traditional route, if you've got 3 to 4 weeks, you might be looking at next year or the year after, so 2027, if you're going to go down the traditional route. It changes all the time, and it depends on which kind of traditional publisher you're looking at. If it's an educational, I know that you want to do a business book. So again, it's about looking at the type of business. Is there a calendar event or an international conference where you could launch the book? These are all the different kind of things. And what I would suggest is that maybe perhaps booking in for one of my author strategy sessions that we have, that I can give you for free, so we can actually discuss further what it is that you are looking at achieving. And I know that if I share my screen with you, you can select a time here. Bear with me 1 second. If you use the link that I've just shared in the chat, you can see I've got Monday. That shouldn't be there. There should be none on Monday. There's one on Tuesday, and there's only 4 on this is just next week. So if you want to actually book in for an author strategy session with me, then do go ahead and use that link that's in the chat. Um, but are there any other questions before we wrap up? Because I like to keep these on time and be respectful of everybody's time. They are for 45 minutes. But you will get the slides, you will get the recording if you've watched this, and it will be actually posted on YouTube as well. So I look forward to having you book in your call, Gary. And Teresa, if you'd like to book in for a call as well, anybody else that's on the call we want to book in, do let me know. And if you are watching the recording, again, if there's any questions that you've got, please do send them through to me. You can either send them through via dawnbates.com/contact, or you can send them through to me on LinkedIn. Just put in Dawn Bates and you will find the one with FRSA, because I am a fellow of the Royal Society of Arts. And so it just makes it easier for you to locate me by putting those FRSA initials after it. If you have any questions, do let me know. And I'm going to say thank you very much. I wish you all the very best on your author journey. If there's any information in this this recording that you come across much later and further on the line, just know the publishing industry is changing all the time, like every other industry. So there might be information that's included in this session that is incorrect by the time you listen to it. So please do check all of the facts. And when you're approaching any publisher, whether it's to help have them publish for you and work with you and you're investing with them, or going down the traditional publishing route, make sure that you have got your goals paramount. Don't just go to a publisher because of a vanity or egoic reason. You've got to do it because it's the right thing for you, your life, and your book. Check your contract agreements. That's it from me today, but thank you so very much for showing up for yourself, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Ciao for now.